And welcome everybody here to another edition, a year-ending edition of the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Coletti, along with Ed Nunez, Alden Iowani, Josh Brown, along with Jason Poole. The whole gang is here. Day after Christmas. Hope you had a great Christmas and hoping that you're having a great holiday season. And we're going to wrap things up here. We'll have the next show next week, the day after New Year's. We'll be on Wednesday again. Then we'll be back to our normal schedule the following week. We're bringing Ed Nunez. And Ed, before we go to the polls, what has surprised you high school-wise so far this year?
I think a couple of things. You know, I had La Cueva boys and Valley boys last Friday night, and La Cueva had been struggling a little bit early in the season. Valley dropping down a classification. And when I talked to Valley head coach Joe Coleman about that before the game, he said, look, we're in it with hope. Bernalillo, Highland's better. They've got the best starting five they've had in years. They didn't do us any favors. But I think that that game, the La Cueva kind of showed me with Isaiah Ortega, Isles had 33, Tyler Isles had 30 points that night. They have Jashawn Lowry just coming in from football, is going to take some time to get those football legs. I think they may surprise you. They started out 0-3, and they won 3 of their last 5. They sandwiched around and lost to Del Norte. So I think that's another team that surprises me too. But I think La Cueva's better than we think. Then Valley turns around the next night and beats Manzano, who had been playing pretty well with Dakota Powell, Jack Blankenship. Those guys, I talked to William Benjamin, the Las Cruces coach, last week. And he said he thought Dakota Powell and Jack Blankenship, once they got those football legs at them, would be very good. And they won the Joe Armijo tournament. So for Joe Coleman's Valley Vikings to turn around the next night and beat them after they lost to La Cueva, you know, I think Joe Coleman always pleads poverty, like Judge Chavez does. You know, we're not that good. And, you know, I say that with respect. They do that, and you know their teams are going to play hard. They always do.
That's funny.
So I think a couple of ththings like that. La Cueva's girls are 5-0, 6-0, I believe. So Hope Huskies boys are not playing the normal, you know, and they have Johnny Nittifin back, Isaiah Dockery, and Colin Evans. They did graduate some key people from last year's team. They've kind of surprised me, not playing as strong as they normally do, but they are playing a tough schedule. So there's been some Cleveland's Cleveland, right? El Dorado's El Dorado. Trisco Heritage is good, and this is what William Benjamin and the Las Cruces Bulldogs, they're good as well. And he, you know, in our interview last week for Enchantment Sports, he wanted to remind me that, hey, you know, the Bulldogs are going to be there. And he had such great philosophy, and we'll talk about that some other time. I know you're a big fan of his as well. He's a big fan of yours. I really have all the respect in the world for that guy, man. You know, we had a good 30-minute conversation, and it was great to talk to him just about basketball. And he's a former Aggie, and he tweaks me all the time. Like, you know, if the Lobos lose, he'll send me a message, what's wrong with your Lobos? And I'm and you know I'm a big Lobo fan. And so, you know, when he does it, it's funny because
That's
you know,
funny.
oh yeah, he lets me know. He'll send me the Aggie memes, the whole thing, and I'm like, you know, I'm not a big New Mexico State fan, but yeah, I have to laugh because it's William Benjamin, man. That you know, William Benjamin has a lot of respect from a lot of different people.
Yeah, he does.
So anyway, those are kind of surprises that I've seen so far.
Let's go to the high school polls. And by the way, shout out to Manny Lucero, doing a great job as always. And Christmas Day, no less, is the final poll of the year. Next week, there will be no poll. That's when all the tournaments are going on and whatnot. So we won't have another poll for a couple of weeks until the week of, I believe it's the week of the Metro tournament will be the next poll that comes out. But this is a 2A poll right here. Texaco, Magdalena, Penasco, Mescalero, and Clayton.
Not much change there. Texaco's number 1, and they seem to be number 1 for a while, so not much change from last week.
Speaking of the Metro, Brackus came out, and it's a week later than normal. Usually it's right after the New Year, but because the New Year falls on a Tuesday, kind of hard to have games on Tuesday night, which normally the first round is on a Tuesday, so they moved it back a week.
And you know what? I just heard Adam Deal and Steve Davis talking about it on the rundown. So, you have the Los Lunas tournament, the Rio Rancho tournament, and then you
Both
turn
great
around
tournaments,
next
by the
week.
way.
Yeah. How long is the hospitality that Steve Davis was talking about, both at the Los Lunas tournament? I've never got to be at the Rio Rancho because I'm usually at the Los Lunas, but
Yeah, you and me both.
great hospitality by
Yeah.
both sites there.
Let's go to 3A now on the girls' side. You got Robertson still in number 1. They are currently, according to the records, as this week they put records out. Hopefully they're all correct. But Robertson listed at 10-0. You got Tucumcari, Santa Fe Indian at 5-2. Hatch Valley at 10-1. And Tohatchee, kind of a surprise at 5-6. But once you get to Tohatchee, everyone else pretty much with 5 wins or less.
Including St. Mike's, which is in the girls' poll number 10.
5-5.
Right. So Robertson at 10-0, as you mentioned, very deserving of that number 1 ranking.
Let's go to 4A now on the girls' side. You got Kirtland Central jumping up to number 1 for the first time this year. Gallup, who was number 1 last week, at number 2. Las Lunas, who's been number 1, they're number 3. Highland and Pewaukee, they round out the top 5. And you got Kirtland at 7-2, Gallup 5-2, Las Lunas 5-3, Highland 5-3, and Pewaukee 10-0.
Okay. Look at the Pewaukee Valley at 10-0. Keep an eye on them. A little surprised that Los Lunas is 5-3, but Marty Zeller, the defending champs from last year, Coach Zeller, I've got such respect for that guy. It's an imposing figure, man, 6'5" guy, and I still remember, calling a couple of his games when he reffed, when he coached at Grants, I believe. So, yeah, Marty Zeller does a great job there, but keep an eye also on Lonnie Neal and the Highland Hornets at number 4 this week.
5A, you got West Mesa 6-0, Hobbs 10-1, La Cueva 7-0, Carlsbad 8-2, Piedra Vista 8-2.
You know what? We mentioned West Mesa. Okay, so we talked about this last week. This is the last year that a lot of those girls are going to be together. A very special group. We're Esperanza Vados, Jaden Castellano, Mariah Rivas. And they brought in a transfer, Barella, from West Las Vegas, I believe. I better get the Las Vegas thing right. I don't want to get that wrong. She's from Las Vegas because I don't want people up there getting mad at me. But they brought in a transfer, and she's really, really good. And so again, this is a special group. So Manny Otero, is this the last chance this group's going to be together? And your chance, best chance for a blue trophy in March maybe this year.
And you know what, Ed, we were talking about this earlier. Hobbs' only loss coming to West Mesa.
Last second shot by West Mesa, and they went on the road and won that one, Scott. And when you went on the road, I think to me as a player, it was always, I liked winning on the road better because you went into their home gym and beat them, and that's what West Mesa did just about 2 weeks ago.
Go to the boys' side now, and on the boys' side, you got 2A, and you got Pecos number 1, Texaco, Newcomb, Santa Rosa, and Magdalena rounding out the fold. Pecos at 6-2, Texaco 9-2, Newcomb 7-0. You got Santa Rosa 5-1, Magdalena 8-1.
Well, look at Pecos at 6-2, and they're doing a great job. But there's some people right on them. Pecos, the 2-time defending champion, with Ira Harge out there, and we mentioned how hard it is to win even one. And of course, when he won the second, a lot of expectations there for Coach Harge, we had him here on the sports desk.
Well, how about after he won his first?
He was telling us.
Can't we just enjoy this one?
Yeah, he was telling us they hadn't won one since 1965, I believe, when they won.
Then the second they won last year, it's, okay, we're going for number 3 now, right?
and there's no rest, right? And we had him and his father on last March, 2 of the classiest people you could ever have on any show. So, but you know what? We're not partial to anybody. That's a great looking field there, and I'm sure things will be up and down all season long.
3A, once again, it's St. Mike's at number 1. They're 6-2 on the year, followed by West Las Vegas, Hot Springs, Wingate, Sandia Prep. Sandia Prep, once again, first time they've had the records. They're listed at 3-2. Wingate 6-3. Hot Springs is 8-2. West Las Vegas 4-3. Lots of basketball to be played, and all these teams, especially you look at West Las Vegas, St. Mike's, they always play a tough schedule.
No, they do. And St. Mike's, this is the second year for head coach David Rodriguez, the former head man at Santa Fe there at St. Mike's. So they've been number 1 now for at least 3 weeks. So we'll see. They did play the Capital City tournament last week, things like that. There's tournaments up north as well. So let's see how long the Horsemen hold on to number 1.
Speaking of number one, let's go to 4A, and you got Los Lunas, who is hosting the tournament this week. They're 6-2. They're number one. Gallup 4-2, number two. Hope Christian, believe it or not, 2-4 on the year. They're number three. Del Norte 5-2. They're number four. Artesia 4-3. They're number five. I bring up Del Norte first because I know you've seen them. You've talked to their coach a lot, and you like them a lot. Ed, what's the most thing that you like about them? Besides their coach being a class act, one of the best dressed coaches in the metro area, and he puts his heart and soul into what his team is.
Very introverted, quiet guy, Jaron McIntosh, but I like him a lot, the head coach of Del Norte. But when I look at them, I think they've got pieces in the point guard, Jonathan Wilkins, forward, Justin Nielsen, Malik Barton can shoot the ball, David Flores. They have some pieces that I really like. At least when I saw them against Albuquerque High, they beat them in overtime, 79-70. And they've only lost one. They lost, they got beat pretty good by Los Lunas. But I really like this team a lot. They went turn around and beat La Cueva. So Jaron McIntosh is very quiet about it, but those Del Norte Knights, keep an eye on them.
Now, how about Los Lunas? They lost a very, very tight one to a very good Santa Fe team at home. And they're 6-2, but they've got Marty Zeller's son, Zanin, on the team. And, just having him on the floor is a plus, one of the top players in the Metro.
Also, a football player, Cody Vacu. They have some very good players out there. Nick Garland would have been out there as well, but he hurt his knee. But you know what? Santa Fe, and led by Coach Cole, he's done a great job out there. J.B. White, I saw a little bit of that game that we covered last week, and they really did a great job in holding off the Tigers at the end and holding off that press, beating the press, scoring when they needed to, timely buckets. Keep an eye on the Demons, and it's been a while since the Demons have been relevant. But back in the day, man, before Capitol was built, Santa Fe ruled the roost up there up north. They really did.
Yeah, speaking of Santa Fe, let's go to 5A now, where you have Cleveland 9-0, Las Cruces 7-0, Volcano Vista number 3 at 4-1, El Dorado 6-2 at number 4, and Santa Fe, they're at 9-1 on the year. And you mentioned J.B. White. Talk about a guy who can shoot from anywhere.
Not only can he shoot, he can drive the basketball, and he's long, he's lanky, and he's a kind of player that you need in today's. Spread the floor, shoot the three, attack the rim, run and gun, press, things like that. He's a perfect player for their system. So Coach Cole, the former Espanola Valley Sun Devil, loves to play that kind of ball. He grew up playing under Richard Martinez. Lenny Roybal was out there many years ago, but that's the way they play. They like to play up north, is up tempo. So you know what? I like what Santa Fe has. I really do. So keep an eye on them.
Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we will come back with more here on the Sports Desk. First, the top 10 plays of the week, brought to you by DreamStop.
Nice dish to Clark underneath. Get that out, said Garcia. Baker back out to Barrett for three. Got it!
Over to Gutierrez. Gutierrez.
Eurostep is rejected emphatically by Nielsen.
Here comes Baldonado. They got a 3-on-1. And Brown says, get it out! Cumber intercepts. VNA on the fast break now. He's got 2-on-1 on the bounce to get it back to Cumber underneath. Oh, what a pretty move.
Pick and roll at the top of the key. Amir's got a step, and Amir's going to go all the way and count it.
There's a drive underneath. Okoro! Thank you very much.
That it was stripped away out in front. It's Blankenship, and he's got a wide open lane. No, he's going to put it down on the left hand.
Away.
Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
High school sports are back. The 2018-19 season kicks off, and you could watch every Proview Network broadcast live on the NFHS network. Every moment, from every game, from every sport, including all NMAA state championships. Get your highly discounted monthly pass now. Go to ProviewNetworks.com and sign up. Watch New Mexico's best.
Talk to State Farm agent Greg Shamus today.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at Proview Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
And welcome back here to the Sports Desk. Scott Coletti along with Ed Nunez. Hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you're enjoying the holiday season. Alden Iowani, Josh Brown, Jason Pohl doing a great job getting us on the air here today, literally. And you had a chance to go to the Lobo game last week. Lobo's struggling. They lost their 4th game at the Pit. And were you even live the last time that ever happened?
I can't even remember when that happened, but yeah, they did struggle. At one time, trailing Penn Saturday, 19-6, and and I was telling my son and my nephew who went to the game with me, it looked as if this team just had no confidence in themselves and their game plan and what they do. So there's the stats right there. They do come back and make a game of it, but as you mentioned, and I'll tell you one thing: there's some questionable calls that went both ways. Paul Weir charges on the court, gets a tee, well-deserved tee. My brother thought that the officials, or my nephew did, thought the officials that Coach Weir wanted to get ejected. And sometimes coaches want to do that. They didn't eject him.
Right.
They did get a little bit of wind at their back, because that usually happens. Calls start going the other, your team's way when that happens. It just wasn't enough. But here's what I said to my son and my nephew. This is a team right now with no identity. Are they a 2-point shooting team? They're not very good at that right now. 3-point shooting, Anthony Mathis did shoot well in the second half. Penn's defense shut him down. Dane Kuiper out with an injury. He's unable to contribute. Vance Jackson, inconsistent, right, from 3. They're 10 of 23 from the line, 10 of 23 from the free throw line, which is atrocious.
Yeah,
that's
I read
terrible.
that out for a reason.
Yeah, that's
43.5%, and let's face it, Penn wasn't that great either, 61%, but 10 of 23. That
at home. At home.
Yeah.
That is
After
atrocious.
they shot 80-something% the game before against North Texas, a game that the Lobos, 2 straight games, went to the line a lot more than their opponent, which is kind of funny because not so many people complained about the officiating against North Texas. I've heard from a lot of people complaining about it
was bad
in this game, but at the same time, the Lobos committed only 2 more fouls than Penn, and they went to the line 5 more times than Penn did.
Look, here's
it's funny how the stats always seem to work out the opposite of complaints, but it's like
there's
clockwork. It always works out that way, and I have never understood why.
There's legitimate complaints about some of the officiating, but I'm going to tell you this: I used to officiate high school ball for 22 years. Did it lose the Lobos the game? It did not. Okay, they did that very well all by themselves. Okay, so let's be real. I heard some takes today. On the radio, one of the famous guys that we've heard for years. But one of the takes he had wasn't
you mean
bad.
Someone who posted in the paper the other
Yes,
day?
yes.
Yeah.
You already know who it is.
I know who
Okay,
you're
so
talking about.
one of the things he said, and it wasn't wrong, that Jaquan Lyle, he's not here, right? But they miss him because he would have so much defensively, leadership. Here's the other thing that I thought of.
Well, how about the players who were on the team last year that transferred out? Probably
Yes.
could have used those guys too.
Gosh, some of those guys I totally forgot about. But yes, they could have used them. But here's the other thing. They don't have an Antono Jackson, a Sam Logwood, or a Joe Furtstinger leadership. Anthony Mathis isn't that kind of leader. All these other guys, Ezzedine, Jackson, Bragg, they're new guys to a system. Manigolds, they're new. They're going to have to be patient. He's not going anywhere. So people that write in on the Lobo Lair and everything else, he's not going anywhere. He's not, okay? That's not going to happen. And I get they have their voice and they should hear it, may have it heard. That's fine. But let's have a little realism. I think one of the things for me, and I'm going to tell you this, that when we had Coach Weir, you and I had him here last March.
Right.
I saw him at the pit last May. I like the heck out of that guy. I do. Okay, so he's a great guy. Now look, does that mean that great guys always win basketball games and they go on to? No, it doesn't mean that. So I understand that. I do. But I think with a guy like Coach Weir, you like him so darn much, you want him to succeed, right? You do. Because he's about the community, he's about Lobos, he's about the program. But there's a struggle right now, and he's the one that, and I told my son and my nephew this on Saturday. You imagine having to coach in this community and you're losing, and it's part of what you do, right? We said this last year. You'll see how team fans are. And you imagine going to the grocery store and your guts are churning because you're losing, man. So, you hope to turn it around, and you hope to start last Saturday. But Penn had beaten Villanova, right? They had beaten Villanova,
Right.
So they're a pretty good team.
Right.
And it just didn't work out, but I'm hoping better things are ahead for the University of New Mexico. I'm certainly not going to give up, and fans around the Metro shouldn't give up on them either.
Here's another hot button topic on Penn, and you go back to my last Lobo game was the Harvard game. And, Ivy League school. Guess what they don't have? And technically they do, because the argument can go if you get a scholarship for academics, it's as good as a, athletic scholarship. They don't give out schollies. So you're losing to a non-scholarship school.
Ooh.
Which is kind of funny. And I would have circled this as a win up until I found out that they lost to Villanova, that they beat Villanova. Once I found out Villanova lost to them, it's like, it's going to be hard to beat them.
Yeah, you were right.
Because what were they good at? And it proved that they were very good at controlling the inside. They're not a huge team. In fact, they might not even be a big team, but they know how to play on the inside.
Strong.
Box out and strong and
Very
everything else.
strong.
And when you're hustling around Villanova, I didn't like the Lobos' chances. And, 75-65, close game, but still, it didn't surprise me that the Lobos lost. Now, let's look ahead now to the next game. And this game actually counts on the Lobos' record, which kind of surprises me, but it's going to be at Ralph Tasker Arena. And that will be just before New Year's. I think it's the 30th. And they're playing University of the Southwest, an NAIA team. So that goes on the Lobos' record.
It does. And looking at the matchup, Lobos 5 and 6 and 3 and 8. So they should, again, they should win that, right? They should win that. They need a win. They need to get away from the pit and go out there and play their game. I'm not going to say anything about, should it be an easy? I don't know that there's anything easy for this bunch from the University of New Mexico right now. Everything's a struggle. Every possession, every game, everything right now, every rebound, they're struggling. As a coach, you know that, right? Coach Weir knows that. But I think they just need to kind of, go out there and get a good victory. And hopefully get all this. You know what? You remember that movie, The Natural, where they bring that one hypnotist in, and losing is this. And you know what? Remember, it's right. It's one of the worst things you can hear this guy. But it does permeate. It does. You start doubting yourself. You really do. So they need a big, couple of victories in a row.
You were talking about seeing some of the posts. And one of the posts that really surprises me is people talking about the lack of confidence. Because that's usually something that a Lobo team hasn't had. Lack of confidence.
But it snowballed. Okay, so it wouldn't have been so bad if you lost. It's bad.
But what if they would have lost that Northridge game?
Oh, yeah.
Last second shot by Mathis to save the day. What if they lose?
That's
that
not
game
a very good Cal State Northridge team either.
Not.
But you know what? Forget that, Scott. They didn't. They won. Okay, but I think the two losses that kind of snowballed on them were the Aggies, and then when they lost to who did they lose to? St. Mary's, and they weren't even competitive. There was two back-to-back losses. And then you come back to the pit.
Colorado was competitive.
Okay, 3 losses and then Penn in a row. Right. So they had Colorado by 18. And then you lose and then you come back. So I think there's just a lot of things around that team right now that they're struggling for a number of reasons. And it takes more than just one game to get out of that. You've been around teams, you've covered teams, you've traveled with teams. You know as well as anybody that when everything's going well, when you were on the road with the Lobos and they were very good, hey man, happy
you saw
day.
The swagger.
Right.
Swagger was at the practice. When they were practicing like a positive team. They were practicing, you could see it in their eyes. Hey, we're going to win this game.
And know what?
You could see it.
When
you're around a team that's kind of on its heels, it's like you kind of see the, not dejection, but you see the doubt in the player's mind. It's like they're fighting even harder to make that 15-footer than they normally would.
They're not, you're right, it's a concentration thing. It's like, everything tightens up.
They're playing tight.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
They're not playing the
tight.
free-flowing that we know how good they're supposed to be. How good was Manigault coming out, a four-star recruit, right? As a dean, supposed to be pretty good. We know what Mathis has done. Carlton Bragg, former All-American. We don't get very many All-Americans. He's starting to show, what do you have on Saturday?
13-7.
Okay, so he's starting to have an impact. Pinchuk, is he going forward? Do you give him more minutes or less? So I think with that rotation
he
underneath,
only had
he
2 points, 3 rebounds in 15 minutes.
Okay, so you know what? His minutes may go down. And I think not having Kuiper as a threat on the perimeter hurts them. Vance Jackson isn't a natural three-point shooter. He'll shoot it, but you miss that other perimeter threat, and then you already didn't have Jaquan Lyle. So my son asked me on Saturday, do you think they give Patterson minutes? I said no way. But if you have Kuiper out for any period of time, it doesn't become that big.
Right.
It's not that big of a stretch.
And you mentioned Manigault. He had 13 points, 8 rebounds on 4 of 11 shooting, 13 for Mathis on 4 of 13 shooting. Manigault needed that game because he had been struggling, so he needed to get back into double figures. And I think the way he does it is by rebounding. He had 4 offensive boards out of 8.
That's another thing that we had talked about. You had said this too. You've got one of the tallest teams in the country, and you're getting kicked on the glass. And so that, everything that we thought that they were going to be, they're not right now. Dominant rebounding team, no.
The one thing I didn't notice, you just brought up rebounds, 41-41. I didn't realize that it was even. I thought the Lobos out-rebounded them, but it was 41-41. Lobos actually had more offensive rebounds, 13-9.
Which is second effort, hustle, determination. That's a good sign.
It's one of the few times all season that they've had that. So
that's a good sign going. You know what? If you're Coach Weir, and we're not, but if you have things to look for, to build on, I would circle that and show my guys, hey, that's something we can. You know what? When you're losing, there has to be things that we look at to get us out of this funk, so we start winning.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Ed, because you're the big Lobo fan here, the defense. They switched things up finally. A lot of people are happy. What did you see out of that zone?
Started out in a zone. My son even elbowed me. Said, "Dad, they're in a zone," which it's almost akin to Bobby Knight playing zone. Bobby Knight didn't believe in any zones at all. It was effective. I thought a couple of times they got caught out of rebounding position because they're not used to rebounding out of a zone. Some long rebounds that they didn't get. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't something that I thought. They didn't have the marksman. Penn didn't have the the guys that would kill from the 3-point land. It might not work so good against a Nevada, but you know what? It wasn't horrible. They may use it again.
Yeah, they might. So we got one more minute here. Is this before break or the end of the show? This is actually the end of the show. So final comments.
Well, you know what, Scott? Just a lot of tournament basketball coming up before district. So I think we're going to get an idea going into district. Then there's the Metro tournament, where and then before you know, we'll be talking about seeding the selection. But first things first, a lot of basketball to be played.
Check out all the schedules on Proview Networks. You'll see it here. You'll see it on My 50, and you'll see us next week on the 2nd. So mark your calendar. We'll be on Wednesday of the 2nd. Then we're back to our regular Tuesday morning schedule and replays after that. You can also see us on Facebook Live and on YouTube. For Alden Iowani, Ed Nunez, I'm Scott Coletti. We will see you next week. Happy New Year from the Sports Desk.